There was an announcement earlier today by the Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe. 3 companies who are now going to start the process of building their generating capacity to add more power to the grid. This is part of that program involving independent power producers. Companies that produce renewable power, wind power and solar power are added to the grid. That should, hopefully, one day, maybe, in our children's lifetime, end load shedding. Chris Horse from the Sola Group. They've won previous bids under this program. They're already supplying electricity to the grid. Chris, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. So these companies have signed their bids. The government has said they're ready to go. Everyone's signed in ink. What happens next? How complicated is the process from here?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Thanks for having me on again. The process it's not over, unfortunately. There's still a way to go. And although I must say, you mentioned we've got experience in interacting with these bids in previous rounds of bidding, we haven't actually participated in this latest round of bidding with government. So we chose rather to actually not participate in this round of bidding. So we're not on the forefront of the exact processes that are happening here. But as I understand the process from here, what has been reached is being termed commercial close, which is really actually only the signing of the power purchase agreements associated with this project. That it is a very important step, and I think it is a great step that we as a country have taken, and Eskom has taken actually in executing these agreements with these particular facilities. It's going to add another 420 megawatts onto the network if the projects are able to reach financial close and go into construction. And that is actually a significant step because Eskom in the past has been reluctant to sign these power purchase agreements even though the projects have been awarded. So we've been in several situations where we've had awarded projects that Eskom never went ahead and signed power purchase agreements with. So it is a good step that they've signed this agreement. What has to happen now is the project team and the sponsor and the lenders have to take that power purchase agreement and actually bring it to financial close, which is the moment where the funds can actually be drawn down from the various banking facilities and the project can move into a binding construction period, which is then contractually set out exactly in terms of completion dates and so on. So there is a way to go there. The expectation is that financial close would happen within the next 60 days. That's quite an aggressive time frame, I think, to achieve that. But there are some experienced developers involved with these projects, and I wish them all the best in getting to that milestone, which is the next one ahead.
What is the sort of most difficult point? Is it from here? Is it the financing, the building, the regulatory issues, perhaps? Where's the sort of biggest bottleneck likely to be? I have a horrible feeling, Chris, you're going to tell me it's about money.
No, look, I think what has been very difficult with this last procurement round is that the bidders that were involved took very aggressive views on where equipment pricing would end up at the time when they actually reached financial close, because nothing's actually locked in until you reach that financial close point. So there's still hedging that has to take place in terms of currency. There's hedging that has to take place in terms of interest rates. And those things actually go into locking the tariff and then firming up all the contracts around the construction. And so what companies tended to do at the time of bidding is they would take a forward view on where these prices would end up and would bid accordingly. And in some cases, that behavior became quite speculative as to where the pricing would end up. And that is the reason why a lot of, 75 or 85% actually of the projects in round 5 are nowhere near reaching financial close or even commercial close, which is the signing of this contract, because their tariffs that they've been awarded do not add up in terms of where the equipment pricing is actually sitting at the moment. These projects were at the very upper end of the tariff range, and as you'll see from some of the reports there, the developers and sponsors claim to have taken a much more prudent view on the equipment pricing, which has allowed them actually to move forward with this project. The challenge now is going to lie in actually executing the various construction agreements and supply agreements that come with building the project. So there would have been a lot of work already done on that, but these contracts are obviously large, complicated contracts. They have very specific completion timeframes and also penalties involved with being late. And so the project companies need to enter into those contracts with the various engineering, procurement, and construction entities, which will back the construction of the projects. And in order to do that, obviously, a lot of negotiation will then take place between now and then to lock up all of the terms and conditions around that. And I think there still is a risk of movement, obviously, of pricing and of timing in between now and then, which could derail this project. I think it's a very confident step that the developers have taken in signing the power purchase agreement, because that means they're confident that they're able to conclude all the rest of those agreements. But it will be a challenge to get those over the line, and then obviously the financing agreements which go with that process need to dovetail into the same time frame. So it becomes a tricky art, actually, of getting all of these various parties and role players to sign the final set of agreements at the exact moment when you want to reach close, and to hedge those foreign exchange rate and interest rates at that moment to lock the whole project in, which then, once that happens, the construction is set ready in stone in terms of the timeframes and delivery of the project.
Chris Hall, as you say, it's an art. It's going to be fascinating to watch this art develop over time. Thanks very much indeed.